Hey, first and foremost, before we begin today's show, just wanted to say thank you for your patience. Obviously, we are in the 1 o'clock hour. This is typically when we're knee deep in content these days with our 2 hour Ravens lunch hour live stream. So thank you for your patience. Obviously, the end of season press conference when it starts at 11, Sarah, that's typically meaning it's going to be quick turnaround time for us. When you add in the fact that I'm coming off my Buffalo flu game weekend, and you spent your morning in the dental chair. Things have been challenging today, but we're here and we look forward to combing through literally every aspect of today's Ravens end of season press conference, which just got done within the last few minutes or so from one winning drive. Eric DaCosta and John Harbaugh met with reporters. It went about 50 minutes, and we're going to get into all that and more. It's also an Homage Wednesday. It's the last Homage Wednesday of the 2024-25 Ravens season, which means we will be doing a giveaway today. You guys know the drill. You could see it right now as a pinned comment in the live chat. All you got to do to be eligible. And by the way, the site-wide is open aside from their varsity jackets, the starter jackets.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, the whole site-wide is open. So subscribe to the Vault, like this video, leave a comment with the hashtag Vault, and click on the link that we have included in the show notes, which brings you right to homage.com/Sarah and Bobby, and you will be eligible coming up in about an hour when we randomly pick a winner. So, partner, let's get through this. Let's go do it.
Oh, first of all, good on you. I mean, you should probably be in bed right now. I'm surprised you're even up and with us this morning. So appreciate you powering through because I know you're still not through it. And you know what? We're digital, so there's no danger in you passing that flu on through the microphone. So we're good. We're just worried about you and appreciate you powering through. This press conference, it wasn't like a very hard-hitting press conference, was it, Bobby? It was kind of got a lot of contract talk. And I'll say this, there's not going to be wide sweeping changes. I also feel like I'm slurring a little bit. I still have whatever they put in, the Novocaine or whatever. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it right now. I feel like I sound like a Daffy Duck or something right now. So hopefully this wears off sooner than later. I don't know if my smile doesn't look too crooked though, but my tongue is a little bit slow here.
Hey,
But
partner, if anybody ever questions our commitment to what we're building here, I'm not going to be happy about it. All right, we're going through it right now. A lot of people have it worse, but we're looking forward to diving into every aspect of this press conference. But just know, we're nowhere near 100%.
Yeah. Well, you're not near 100. I just have a little numbness, so I should be fine. I'm more worried about you. But anyway, it just wasn't like it felt like a Ravens free agency almost press conference. We got a lot of good answers on what could be happening with the future with, say, Mark Andrews, which people are questioning, or Brandon Stevens, or Justin Tucker, or John Harbaugh himself, and Todd Monken, and all these different things. So I felt like we got lots of good answers there. There was some reflection on the game, obviously Mark Andrews and all that, but not a ton. It wasn't a ton. And I wonder if it's because everybody in the auditorium is on the same page, that it was turnovers. And so that's kind of where they began. Like, how's Mark Andrews doing? And what has been your message to him? I mean, that was it. And then the Lamar Jackson narrative stuff. There was one question about the Derrick Henry usage, but on a specific drive, not as overall. So it really didn't get into the game too much, and it felt more about free agency. So it was a lot of good nuggets there. But if you were looking for more about the game and what went wrong and all that, they just didn't dive too deep there, I felt like.
You just mentioned it, though, and I think it's a good place to start. And that is, I think, what a lot are wondering because of the outpouring of, yes, support from Bills Mafia, who's donated over $60,000 and counting to one of Mark Andrews' go-to charities, but also the outpouring on the other side of the aisle, too, which has been really just inhumane to the point where his girlfriend, Mark's girlfriend, had to shut off her comment section on Instagram because of death threats and all these other ridiculous comments. So that is where we'll begin. Where is Mark Andrews? His headspace has Eric and John had a chance to connect with him because, as we covered earlier in the week, he did not make himself available post-game on Sunday night, nor was he available or present at the team's locker room cleanout the following day, at least when reporters were there. So here is John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta talking about that very topic.
I'm going to tell you what, like Mark Andrews is one of the very best football players, one of the most committed football players. Nobody cares more about the success of this football team than Mark Andrews. And that's why, and he made numerous plays in the game up until the plays that everybody's talking about and in the season. And one of my messages to him was, we are not where we're at throughout the course of the season or in the game without the contributions of Mark, specifically in the game and the plays that he made. Spectacular plays all season. And then the unsung aspect of all the blocking he did in line and on the perimeter. So Mark Andrews is a great football player, and he's also a very tough-minded individual. So, yeah, he takes it hard, and because he cares so much. But I love Mark Andrews. Eric loves Mark. All of our players love Mark. Mark is a huge part of our future, and we love him. And you know, we're there for him. But if anybody can take a tough circumstance like that and handle it with class and grace and dignity and mental toughness, it's most definitely Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I agree with John. And Mark and I have communicated. I'll leave those thoughts to myself. But as far as Mark's contract goes, you know, he's no different than a lot of guys. In fact, I think all of our tight ends are in the last year of their contract coming up in 2025. So, you know, we'll have some decisions to make moving forward. Not as many, I think, you know, tough decisions this year, looking at it, which I'm thankful for. But obviously, as we look out, we'll have some tough decisions after next season. So a year from now, we'll have some tough choices and decisions to make regarding players. But, yeah, so that room right now, all three of those guys are in the last year of their deals. Ironically, Charlie and Isaiah and Mark, we're blessed to have, in my opinion, the best tight ends room in the league. And we'll be blessed this year on the field as well.
In other words, Sarah, maybe hinting at the fact that they'll be running it back with maybe the deepest tight end trio in the entire league for one more year.
Oh, they did more than hint. Yeah. I mean, John Harbaugh said Mark is a huge part of our future. Yeah. And you're obviously not getting rid of two other tight ends who are successful that are still on their rookie deals. Bobby, you and I predicted this on, the days are blurring together now, but I believe on Monday. I believe on Monday, both you and I said, my prediction is that Mark was going to be back. And, and they all but said that. So, Eric DeCosta, you know, said that, in fact, overall this year, he doesn't have a lot of big decisions to make. And he said, I'm grateful for that. Now he's like, looking down the road, 2026, I may have some decisions to make, and he can work on those decisions early if he wants to start extending people sooner. But if your anger with Mark is to the point where you're hoping he was going to get the Lee Evans treatment or the Billy Cundiff treatment, that is not going to happen. Obviously, I think all of Ravens Nation is frustrated that he dropped that pass and that he fumbled before, and that is completely legitimate. I think what they're pointing to here is that based off of his history, which Billy Cundiff and Lee Evans didn't have, and what they're saying here is when John Harbaugh is saying, I gave this message to Mark Andrews that we wouldn't be here without you, he's actually giving that message to Ravens Nation, right? He's trying to say, we're not the same team without Mark Andrews, and that's why he's a huge part of our future. So we can punch air, but Mark Andrews is staying around, and as difficult as it was to watch him blow it, and he did blow it, Bobby, in the divisional round, as difficult as it was to watch that, I support the decision for him to come back.
And you hope that when cooler heads prevail among those who have been overly vocal about Mark's role in what became an extremely crushing loss, when cooler heads prevail, those will realize just how impactful 89 has been throughout his 7 seasons, being that he was, of course, one of Lamar Jackson's classmates in that 2018 draft class. It's back-to-back years now of AFC exits. Of course, last year they got one round further than they did this year. And I remember having this conversation with you a number of times over the last year or so, how you evaluate, how you measure success when everybody in that building knows at this point in the Lamar era, at this point in what they've done for the last few years, anything short of the Super Bowl can and probably will be referred to as a bust. Eric DeCosta was asked about how he measures this season and whether or not it was a success in his mind.
Perspective over what, 29 seasons, and we've had 27 seasons like this. I think my math is right. But I'm very proud of the team this year. It was a successful season. I'm not going to sit up here and say it was not a successful season. It was in just about every way of looking at it. But I'm disappointed, and John's disappointed. We're all disappointed. Our team's disappointed. We had higher aspirations, and we didn't achieve those aspirations and goals. But I think it was a successful season. I'm very proud of the team, the players, the coaches, support staff, everybody. And I've already moved on. I've started watching tape. I'm immersed in college and pro scouting right now and talking about contracts and negotiations and different things. And that's one, I think for me, that's one of the blessings of my job is it's very seasonal. And I'm in now one of my most favorite seasons, which is the off season, which is not, it's a misnomer because it's my busiest time of the year. But I love being a part of the solution, and that's what we'll be.
Sarah, the first thing that stood out to me with that answer right there from Eric is that not everyone in that building has the same luxury, especially the players, when it comes to being able to sink your teeth into something different. When you're a general manager, when you're in the scouting department, when you're a head coach, you have to turn a page. And while players can and they will eventually and dive into their offseason programs, and if you're a Nate Wiggins, maybe you want to add a few pounds. If you're Zay, maybe you want to potentially explore an offseason surgery with that knee, whatever it is. But players don't necessarily have the same luxury. And so for Eric to say that he's already over it, I get it. Like, he has to be, because that's his world.
Yeah.
Like, that's his world. But there's a lot of people in that locker room that I just don't know if they're there yet in their overall grieving process.
Yeah. And that the question of was the season successful? It's a gotcha question no matter what you say, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
for sure.
If you say no, it wasn't a success, then it's like you throw out every thing that every player did or every coach did. Lamar's probably going to win MVP of the regular season. You won the AFC North. You swept the Bengals. You know what I mean? Like the offensive line and these young offensive linemen, Nate Wiggins coming in and having a sensational rookie season. Like, so if you say it's not successful, it's like, well, what about all those things over there? But then if you say it's a success, then it's like, well, what the heck? You got, what do you mean? What's your definition of success? Because you guys got knocked out early.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a gotcha question. I mean, was the regular season a success? Probably. Was the postseason a success? Heck no. The ultimate goal is to win the Super Bowl, and that's everybody's goal. But this team had a legitimate shot. And I think there's a lot of people out there would think that it was, if not the most talented roster, maybe the most talented roster. And they came up short and they lost a game that they gave away. And so the postseason, absolutely not a success, but obviously other smaller successes leading up to that.
The other thing is, too, imagine if he were to go the route of unsuccessful the way that he answered that. How does that play in the locker room? Maybe that's what you were just alluding to.
Yeah.
Because they did accomplish historical feats throughout this regular season stretch. I mean, this was a historic year. And you can go stat after stat after stat, milestone after milestone to back that up. So you have to keep that in mind as well. Eric was also asked by Jerry Coleman, and this made for an interesting back and forth regarding Lamar's postseason narrative. Mm-hmm. And Eric was sure to stand 10 toes down in support of number 8 after, yes, when it's all said and done, he will going into his 8th season below 500 in an 8-game sample size in the month of January, 3 and 5 to be exact. But based on what Eric has seen, he did not mince his words here.
You know, Lamar, this is for both of you guys. How does he change the narrative from what he's done to the regular season as opposed to the postseason? You know, changing what people think about him after the regular season ends. Is there anything more he can do?
And what do people think about him?
Well, there's the difference with the numbers and the way he performs between the postseason and regular season. So I didn't think he played poorly the other day, but that's perception out there. It all falls, it seems, on the quarterback.
I can say there's no player I'd rather have on my team than Lamar Jackson. He's, you know, I think he's the best quarterback in the league. So that's my answer to that question.
Mic drop.
I love Eric having Lamar Jackson's back. I know that everybody listening has Lamar's back. I can't imagine any Ravens fan or anybody associated with the team doesn't want to see Lamar have success. And so, you know, Eric wasn't going to get into that narrative and give it oxygen. So he obviously just lets everybody know who he wants on his team. And at the same time, the Ravens and Lamar are going to have to figure out the answer to that question. And if the answer is, you know, it's just each game is its own and this is what happens, or if it's what we talked about yesterday. Now you were out, Bobby, but we went in depth of the stats of the turnover margin. And it's horrendous, both giveaways and the lack of takeaways. And so even if it's just that, it's just like we've got to protect the ball if that's it. Whatever it is, Lamar Jackson, the Ravens want to answer that question so that he can, you know, get all the way to the promised land, so he can get to where his goal is. And so is he going to solve that in any way, shape, or form in what he could have said today? No. But hopefully inside the building, they're trying to figure out how they can get Lamar in the playoffs, in all of the playoffs he's had. I mean, that second half was MVP level. That Houston game last year was MVP level play. The first drive was MVP level play. But they're going to have to answer that question on the field of having this quarterback that only had 4 interceptions to 40 plus touchdowns to have that type of ratio in the regular season. They're going to have to ask themselves, how can I get Marlon Humphrey, who led all cornerbacks in the league with 6 interceptions, to maybe bring that over into the playoffs? And so they have all that talent, but eventually, even though they couldn't answer it today, they're going to have to answer that question, because this whole thing where they're just like lights out during the regular season, that's Lamar and everybody, where they're lights out in December, especially. They've been lights out the last 2 years, and then don't quite rise to that level of play. They're going to want to answer that internally.
Let's take a quick pause and let everybody know about today's sponsor. And you're rocking one of your t-shirts right now. I got my joggers on, by the way. I know nobody can see them, but I am rocking these joggers. And being that I'm a little under the weather, they are hitting different right now with the overall softness and comfort of them. This crew neck has been really, really hot. I can't tell you how many people I've heard from, Sarah, over the course of our time working with Homage here these last few months, who are just inquiring, like, where can I get this crew neck? Well, here it is. If you enter today's giveaway, this is fair game. We're not just doing t-shirts. They have opened it up site-wide for our final giveaway of the 2024-2025 season. And if you're just wondering where the joggers are that I'm wearing right now, I think it's on the second page here. Here they are. The Superstar Jogger. These things are just insanely soft. So anyway, as you guys know by now, and you can see it as a pinned comment right now in the live chat, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Homage. You can check out their great Ravens apparel by visiting homage.com/Sarah and Bobby. You can use our discount code at checkout for 20% off. That is the Vault, TheVault, That'll get you 20% off your next purchase. And we also heard from Kevin earlier this morning at Homage, who wanted me to give you a couple different updates of what they have going on. Today, it is buy one, get one, 30% off women's apparel. Tomorrow, buy one, get one 30% off pop culture and Discover collection. So, wanted to make you guys know that there is other gear on here aside from just the Ravens. On Friday, the 24th, 20% off lightweight hoodies. Saturday and Sunday, meaning the 25th and the 26th, they're offering you 20% off the purchase of 2+ items. And the first ever officially licensed Wrexham AFC collection launches on Thursday. That's tomorrow, January 23rd, which is an Homage exclusive. So there's a lot going on right now. I know you pretty much have an entire collection of Homage merch at this point.
Got a ton.
You're rocking your t-shirt right now.
Yeah.
What would you urge today's giveaway winner?
I'm kind of
take
with
home?
you on just because it's so cold. I woke up this morning and it was -2. We're now at 1:30. The sun's a little bit out, so we're up to 10 here. I wore those joggers yesterday along with the matching sweatshirt. So warm throughout the day. And as you guys know, I get cold very, very easily. So, walking outside and all that, I felt nice and cozy and warm all day. So if it's because Homage opened this up to be greater than a t-shirt, I would either take joggers or the sweatshirt that goes along with them. They are just so unbelievably warm.
Okay. Always like to mention too, the go-to section. If you don't want any kind of logo or team related piece of merch, that's a good spot to go check out. And again, code the vault at checkout gets you 20% off. If you'd like to enter today's giveaway, subscribe, like this video, leave a comment with the hashtag vault, and click on that link that we have included as a pinned comment. If you're in the Twitter space and you want to be eligible for today's giveaway, you know the drill. Come on over to YouTube. So the opening section was cleaning up some things about the game, evaluating the season. And if you're just joining us, by the way, and we have over 1,400 concurrents, obviously we're running a little bit late today. The end of season press conference took place at 11 a.m. And between that going 50 minutes and the turnaround time that it takes to be able to give all of this to you in detail, we just wanted to be sure to take the time that we needed. So from game leftovers to contract talk is where we go next. And Sarah, how do you want to set this up for what Eric DaCosta was asked about as it pertains to Lamar?
Yeah. So I guess with Lamar, which we all knew when the Ravens struck a deal with Lamar finally, is that about 3 years into it, and now we're 2 years, about 3 years into it, they would likely have to restructure because the cap hits in the latter years were going to be too high and prohibitive in building a team around Lamar. Same thing happened with Joe Flacco. After 3 years, they restructured. And so he was asked about that restructuring, and he acknowledged that that's going to have to happen. Do you have the audio on that?
I do.
All right.
I do. And here is EDC.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen teams do that. And, Lamar and I, we've had a lot of discussions about contracts over the years. And at some point, I'll probably talk to Lamar. I'm just really happy, blessed to have watched him play football this year. We just finished the season. I want Lamar to relax a little bit and kind of think back on what we accomplished as a team and what he accomplished individually. And so we'll have those conversations probably at some point. And I think Lamar is, what I've seen just with Lamar is he's just grown so much, even just over the last couple of years in terms of, his game as a player, as a leader, as a person. I love talking with him. We communicate all the time. And as I said, I've been blessed to be with him for the last 7 years.
So, yeah, I mean, Lamar's going to be around for quite some time. It's just a matter of how they're able to build around him. But what about Derrick Henry? He has another year in his contract, which we discussed yesterday, I believe. And but it's just 1 year. So Eric DaCosta was asked.
And I got it right here, partner, if
right,
you'd like to hear from Eric. And then
sure, let's move right into Derrick.
Absolutely. And then we can cut back to the transcription in just a second. Here's EDC on the King.
Well, I mean, I think Jerry thought he was over the hill last year. But I think he proved that he has a lot left in the tank. And I'm sorry, Jerry, I couldn't resist.
Okay, we'll pause real quick. He definitely took a jab at Jerry Coleman, right?
Jerry's on a heater right now. We missed this over the weekend. So Jerry in the past referred to Buffalo as the city of losers.
Yes.
Okay. And they played that 105.7 The Fan clip out loud at Highmark Stadium during a timeout, I believe. The
Yeah.
place went nuts. Talk about some bulletin board material, Jerry, for the Buffalo Bills. So not only is he coming off the high of that, because Jerry, he's loving that.
Yeah.
But also Eric, as he so often does, these guys have good relationships with him. Obviously, he's a polarizing figure. But you already know Eric. Any chance he gets to throw a little jab in there, he's taking it.
Yeah, because there were obviously the vast majority of people were like, oh my gosh, Derrick Henry and Lamar, this is going to be unfair. And for the most part, it was, especially in December, holy moly, and against the Steelers. And it was just unreal. And so Eric needed to have his moment. You questioned it. You thought he was over the hill. You didn't think it was a good move by me, but Derrick almost had 2,000 yards. So he just had to put that in there real quick for Jerry. And to at least Jerry's credit, he can dish it and he can take it, right? So he didn't have any problem with EDC kind of jabbing him a little bit there. He better be able
Eric's
to take
face.
it because look, he's so happy. He's so happy.
Eric's loving it. He loves it. He can razz with the best of them, man.
Yeah. Oh, he definitely can. He definitely can. He likes to play jokes on people all the time. Anyway, back to the issue at hand is, well, he's got 1 year left. He played so well. Do we want to extend him beyond that? So once he finishes taking his little jab at Jerry, he answers that question.
Jerry's been wrong before. It's okay.
We'll look at that. I think it's a good question. I'm just so grateful that Derrick chose us last year. Came in and just I can honestly say his attitude and the way that he played was amazing to watch, and just his relationship with his teammates, his humility as a player, his work ethic. Can't wait to see him next year. I know it was tough on him to end the way it did, tough on all of us. But I think we have a chip on our shoulders to come back next year with a vengeance, to start faster than we started this year, to not start 0-2 next year, to get out of the gates faster. And I think Derrick will be a big part of that.
So open to extending him, but didn't really dive too deep into it. And there's a part of me, maybe it's just because this has happened so many times, where he says, he's tough ending for him, tough ending for all of us, and we're going to come back with the vengeance. And that's absolutely the attitude that you need to have, that you're going to come back with the vengeance. And then, we've got a picture of Derrick Henry right now, stiff arming Minkah Fitzpatrick. And you want that, but it just seems like so many times it's ended earlier than it should have. And it's always the message is we're going to come back with the vengeance. And so eventually they just need to do that. But to his point, it's got to start. You can forgive the 0-1 start against the Chiefs, the toe being out of bounds on the touchdown. They still would have scored the 2-point conversion. And so, but then you lose to the Raiders and later you lose to the Browns. And so, I think, though, where their confidence is coming from this time, right, where things ended early, is that, well, pending, this is probably the biggest thing that's pending, is Todd Monken. If Todd Monken were to return, they legitimately would be running it back with almost an identical setup, yes. Right? Zach Orr's back. If Todd Monken's back, then you don't have to, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and all these guys don't have to spend time learning a new offense, and then it would be much more difficult to start 2-0 rather than 0-2. I guess it depends on who you're playing. And almost everybody's coming back, minus a few guys here and there. And so I think that's why they think they can. We don't have to wait to have a new defensive coordinator and get the defense settled. And that's what happened last year. And then the year before, we don't have to wait for the offense to start clicking, because we already have all of our key guys, which is Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. It's all right there. And so that's why, to me, the biggest piece is Todd Monken. Because if you want to start early and just be building from the beginning, it's going to make it a lot harder to do that with a brand new offensive coordinator. So So we've been here before. We've heard them say we got a chip on our shoulders. We're going to be back with a vengeance. But it would be much easier to do so if Todd Monken returns.
Well, one player whose future is uncertain is number 42, Pat Ricard, who's set to enter unrestricted free agency come March. Eric DeCosta was asked about, and I was thinking about the right nickname for him because he's got so many of them. Pro Bowl Pat Ricard, you name it, All Pro Pat, Pancake Pat, Project Pat, you name it. Here he is and remember, these are comments coming just a couple days after Pat made it clear at locker room cleanout, Sarah, that he would like to retire a Raven. He wants to spend the rest of his career as a Baltimore Raven. Here is Eric after being asked about those comments.
No, we haven't had those discussions yet. His agent's a good friend of mine, and I think Pat knows how we feel about him, and I would love for him to retire as a Raven too. I mean, he epitomizes everything that we're all about, and he's another undrafted guy who just became, in my opinion, the best at his position. So we'll have those discussions. This is not the first time that he's been a free agent, and so I think he's signed at least 2 deals with us after his rookie deal. So this is probably his 4th contract now with us if we can get him signed. And I would say that would be the goal.
Sarah, when you look around the league, the fullback position, obviously, for a lot of teams is viewed as a luxury. The Ravens have made it a priority throughout the Lamar era and even prior to that. And you wonder if that continues this offseason.
Okay, so we're talking about this theme of running it back, right? So there he is saying, I would like Pat Ricard to retire a Raven. Pat Ricard said the same thing on Monday. So he'll be back to run it back. Do you know who else will probably be back?
Who else?
Justin Tucker. So here's Eric DeCosta on whether or not he will be back.
Well, I think Justin's going to go down as, in my opinion, as if not the best kicker of all time, one of the best. And I think he finished the season strong. We'll have those discussions, but I think, I have every expectation that Justin's going to be a great kicker for us next year and moving forward. We're blessed to have Randy Brown and Chris Horton upstairs and Sam Cook, awesome coaches, special teams coaches. They'll be a part of the discussion, but the way that Justin finished, he finished strong this year towards the end, had a little bit of adversity midway through the season. But, I think Justin is a tremendous competitor, very, very talented. He works his butt off, and I would expect him to be the kicker for us next year.
And John Harbaugh chiming in as well, sir.
The thing about the Justin Tucker thing, and we had a great conversation yesterday, and a really long, honest conversation, and it was great because we talk all the time, and he's really a good guy, and he's a mature guy, and he's a thoughtful guy. Maybe we all saw that Justin Tucker is human. Maybe we got a chance to see that. It's hard to be a great kicker in this league and be as consistent as he's been. And he ran into this adversity probably a lot later in his career than most of these guys do. But it's something that probably had to happen in terms of his growth as a player and even as a performer. It's like golf. It's like making a great drive or a great putt time and time again. And he went through this thing that was really more here than it was here, because he was kicking so well in practice, and he knew exactly what the format was: stay in balance, follow through, hit it clean. And that was kind of his swing thoughts that he would make in practice. And then taking those to the game under the duress of having those misses when he didn't do that, when he didn't get himself somewhat in the right frame of mind to be able to make that type of contact on the ball that he wanted, to pull himself out of that was going to be the test. And the fact that he went through that, pulled himself out of it, because there's only him. Only he can do it. He's the only one in his mind that can do that. If you're a high-level performer, maybe you understand that more than those of us who aren't athletes at that level. And that's the thing I was proud of him for, and I think that's going to serve him well going forward in his career.
Sarah, he drilled a 47-yarder on Sunday night. I think he also had a chip shot of around 26, if I'm not mistaken, and finished the season strong, not missing, even albeit a small sample size, after that Week 14 bye week.
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't surprise me that they plan on bringing him back. And it does feel good that he bounced back in order to have more confidence there. So they stuck by him. It got very dicey there. They stuck by him. They stuck by a lot of guys and a lot of them ended up, turning out. So I get why they're going to move forward with him, and they're also going to move forward with Dean Pease as a consultant. John Harbaugh, when talking about Dean, he just said that, I thought it was interesting. He said that Dean helped bring them back to their roots. They're like their defensive roots. And he said because Dean had helped build it for so long, from about 2010 when he was a linebackers coach all the way up to 2017 when he left, and he retired originally, and then he went back and was a DC for the Titans, and then he came back as a consultant. And so John knows that he's not going to have him full time. Obviously Zachary Orr is the coordinator, but Zach being so young, I think he also welcomed that experience and that wisdom and that voice. But he made clear he's not going to be in the office all the time. He's got grandkids. He wants to be with his wife, all that kind of stuff. It sounded like his wife showed up, often and had lunch and all that kind of stuff. So, so again, the theme of the day is they're running it back, including with their defensive consultant and DPs.
Well, it should be noted that, to your point, of course he retired. He turned 76 in September, does Dean. So, it's not going to be a full-time role the way that he gave the Ravens down the second half stretch, but to have his voice and his influence, that'll mean a lot, particularly given, to your point there, Zach's youthfulness. What about Todd Monken, who, of course, has been requested to be interviewed, reportedly, by 3 teams, one of which just hired Ben Johnson, Chicago Bears, earlier this week, as we covered, meaning the other 2 who remain vacant, Vegas and Jacksonville, still potentially up for grabs, even though there hasn't been a whole lot of buzz surrounding Todd's names from the insiders, if you will. Here's John Harbaugh talking about how meaningful it would be to have Todd back for year 3.
Will be very meaningful if and when we get Todd Monken back. I'm very hopeful that we will. Have you heard something? Sounds like you tapped in pretty good. Is there any jobs open yet?
Asking Jonas Schaefer.
Are all the jobs closed? Jaguars. Raiders. So that's not a done deal yet. But Todd Monken will be a great head coach. I'll just say that. He's a really good football coach. He's an old school football coach with kind of a new school and a creative mind, always creating. He works well with the staff. We have a great staff around him. So because of that, it'll be very meaningful if and when we get him back and we continue forward. And I really am excited about, 3.0, that iteration of this offense going forward, because we found ourselves through the last offseason and into this season in terms of how we wanted to organize the offense and tie it all together and use the different platforms that you can use. We're kind of in every world offensively, and it's not easy to do that, but we can do that because of our quarterback, because our quarterback's capable of living in all those different offensive worlds, and that's tough for a defense to defend. How we can continue to evolve that so we can operate it more efficiently, more effectively, more quickly, with less verbiage and all those kind of things, where everybody's on even more and more on the same page. That's what we'll be striving for.
So just as we're speaking right now, the Jets are going, not that the Jets were looking at Monken, but another vacancy looks to be filled here. The Jets are hiring Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn as their next head coach. So Dan Campbell, Sarah, dealing with what Harbaugh dealt with last year, in a sense, with Mike McDonald, even though he's losing both of his coordinators, because Ben Johnson, who was the offensive coordinator for Detroit, goes to Chicago. But I guess similarly to how Nick Sirianni had to deal with it a couple of years ago after the Super Bowl run that the Eagles made, he lost both of his coordinators. That's what Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions are dealing with right now. But that just makes me think about something I just thought of with Jacksonville. I believe they're entering phase 2 of their process, meaning second interviews, which are typically in person, at least for those that can make it, that maybe aren't in the Final 4 coming up for championship weekend. And I haven't seen Todd's name among those candidates for second interviews. So just food for thought going into this next phase of the hiring process.
Yeah, that could always change. I mean, I'm reading Jaguars Wire at USA.com right now. And currently it says the Jags are down to 2 finalists for the head coaching role. And the in-person interviews are for Patrick Graham and then Robert Saleh on Friday. So Thursday and Friday. So right now, Todd is not scheduled, as you mentioned, for a second interview there. And You can hear it in John's voice. I actually echo his sentiment. I think that Lamar Jackson really likes Todd Monken. I think Todd Monken has done a great job of marrying a great rushing attack with a legitimate passing attack. I like the way he's empowered Lamar Jackson, and I do not want to start over. I do not want Lamar Jackson and this team to have to start over. So I'm with John. I'm like, yeah, he would be an awesome head coach, but it would be very meaningful to have him back.
What about John himself? He enters this offseason knowing that 2025 is the final year on his contract, and he was asked about it point blank.
I talk to Eric every day, talk to Steve every day. Not every day. Steve wouldn't talk to me every day. Talk to Sashi about every other day. But, I'm happy, man. I'm happy. And however that goes, I trust God. I trust the people I work with every day who I love, who are my friends. But more importantly, we're on a mission together. And as long as that goes, as long as God permits that to go, then I'm all about it. I'm fired up for it, and I don't worry about those kind of things. They take care of themselves.
Harbs, of course, the second longest tenured head coach behind Mike Tomlin by a year across the league. Been in Baltimore since 2008. He'll turn 63 in September. Sarah, this is potentially against what Steve has done throughout his years, right? Potentially with like the whole lame duck thing. Has this happened before throughout the Steve era?
No, and I think it's too early to say that.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll let him go into the season. If Steve Bisciotti wants John Harbaugh as a head coach in 2025, which all indications are that he does, as he enters in his final year, he'll probably extend him before the season starts.
Yeah.
That's always been his MO. Now, does he have it done within the week after the season's over? No, but it typically gets done before the season begins, and usually even before training camp and all of that. Mm-hmm. So my prediction is that he will get extended at some point this offseason.
All right. Outside of 2025, because obviously the current deal, just to be clear for our audience, runs through this upcoming season for John Harbaugh.
Yep. So one person though that defies our theme today, Bobby. I think this is the last on the contract front. Everybody they want to run it back with, right? You've already got everybody under contract. You've been looking to extend a couple people, but one guy that Derek DeCosta says, you know what? He's trying to say it in a nice way, but go check out the market because I don't have a market for you here inside of Baltimore, and that is for cornerback Brandon Stephens.
And here's EDC.
Steve is a great pro. Awesome attitude. He's a great teammate. He'd probably say he didn't have as good a year this year, but his attitude never wavered. He's out there, very, very dependable, good practice player, tough, physical guy. He's a free agent. So there's a lot of pressure on him, I think, in his mind. He was a great pick, and I'm proud of him. This is a guy that's really only been playing DB for about 4 or 5 years, and he's grown a lot, and he's been a good player for us over the years. And we'll have to see what happens with him. He's probably going to have a chance to test the market and see what his value is. But he's helped us win a lot of games over the last couple of years. He's been a big part of our success, and I'm proud of him for that.
Just know that I edited that down pretty significantly. Not that it was a long answer, but there were 2 long pauses, Sarah. One at the beginning and one in the middle that sort of just suggested and begs the question, not only what is Brandon's future in Baltimore, but how mindful Eric wanted to be that he answered that with some care.
A lot of care, because he's not bringing him back. He's not bringing him back. And we all know why. We saw when week in and week out, the opposing team targets you, and then you go into the playoffs, and on the very first drive, Josh Allen is targeting you. And you can never get that target off your back. Nate Wiggins got targeted a couple times, and they're like, oops, let's not do that again. Right? That never happened with Brandon Stephens. Bobby, when he said Brandon Stephens is a good practice player, I was like, oh,
that was tough.
Oh, he's like, he was a good pick. He's got a good attitude. Hey, he's only been playing this position for 3 or 4 years, and that's all true. But it is it's kind of like when you're breaking up, and you're like, it's not you, it's me. or like the guy who ends up with you is going to be so lucky, right? Like those type of answers. He's going to go to the market and find out what his value is. Like, go out there and play the field. There's so many people out there that are better than me. It's like those type of things where you're trying to like let somebody down gently. And as a person, obviously, he is a great guy, and what he has done is sensational. But as good as the guy as he is, as good of an attitude as he has, as much as the adversity he's had, you have to separate that from a business decision. And I believe Eric DeCosta is making the correct decision in letting him and go out into free agency waters.
Nothing else really needs to be said there. We should probably get to some super chats and reset some things here and let everybody know that 2,000 plus of you concurrently hanging out with us today. We're
concurrent.
Thank you. Combing through the Ravens end of season press conference from earlier this morning. It went about 50 minutes. John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta fielded questions. And next up, we're going to talk about the offensive line, the evaluation of the offensive line, the future of the offensive line, and more coming up in just a bit. Today is brought to you by our friends at Homage. It is a Wednesday giveaway. In order to be eligible, you guys know the drill. Subscribe to the Vault, like this video, leave a comment with the hashtag Vault, and explore Ravens gear by visiting homage.com/Sarah and Bobby. It's important to note the entire site is open to today's giveaway, aside from the varsity starter jackets. Literally, that means crew necks, joggers, t-shirts, and everything in between, all open for today's giveaway winner. Dreams gets us started off here and writes, if he doesn't retire, EDC needs to bring back Joe Flacco as Lamar's backup, and maybe he can help settle Lamar when the playoffs come around. Hashtag Vault. Bosif.
Feel better soon, Bobby. And thanks to both of your dedication to the Vault. Well, on to next season with high hopes. Mark Andrews, we still love you, man. Hashtag Vault.
Appreciate the well wishes. Tensei says, draft a 6'5" interior offensive lineman. Likely's the number 1 tight end. And sign Deebo Samuel. Hashtag Vault. Off-season agendas for Tensei already being shared with us.
I'd
and
say
Oddish.
2 of those 3 are practical. 2 of those 3. Oddish, y'all realize y'all could have taken the day off. Love you guys. Hashtag Vault.
Is that my mom's burner account in there?
A day off. What's that?
Is that my mom's burner account hiding behind a YouTube channel? Captain Hard says, the worst Hard Knocks. First time seeing behind the scenes after a playoff loss. And when Lamar said, I ain't going to be all right. I just can't wait till he gets that Super Bowl. Going to be amazing. And yes, the final edition, the final episode of this year's in-season AFC North Hard Knocks dropped last night. And I did have a chance to watch that. There were several clips that I'm sure we'll get to coming up later this week.
Yeah.
And Monica.
Hashtag Vault forever a Ravens fan. Heart and black heart or purple and black heart emojis.
Appreciate you, Monica. Dream says Hamilton, Linderbaum, Travis Jones, Kohler likely are in the last year of their rookie deals from that 22 class. Super Bowl is a must next season. Hashtag Vault. And that reminds me of a note that I made that Eric was asked about that class, particularly given the standouts that Kyle and Tyler have become. And he says that it's absolutely a priority to get them extended.
Because you got to re-sign Hamilton. You got to re-sign Linderbaum. You would give Mark Andrews money because Mark Andrews' contract will be up. You give that to Isaiah Likely by next year. Kolar, you might have to let him walk. Travis Jones, that would be tough when you're already
wait and see.
BK, yeah. But Hamilton, Linderbaum, and Likely are the ones I think they can re-sign.
But Quion notes like what a class that's become, huh?
Seriously.
I mean, what a class.
Seriously.
So, Robbie Pate.
If Mark doesn't get cut, he won't. His targets need to go down because Likely is our future tight end, and we need to give him the ball more. Hashtag Vault.
Captain Hard showing us some love. Joy Walker says, feel better, Bobby. Hashtag Vault. Thank you, Joy. And Paul.
Get well soon, Bobby and Sarah. Go Ravens. Hashtag Vault. I'm not sick. I just had a dentist appointment. That's my only issue.
Yeah,
it's coming back though, It's coming back a little bit.
Good.
You know when it gets that tingly feeling when it comes back?
Oh yeah.
That's the stage I'm in right now.
Well, I'm good because that did not sound fun in our pre-show meeting, what you told me about.
And I'm not getting into the details here.
Your time in the chair. Eileen Nolan showing us some love. Thanks, Eileen. And Matthew writes, I'm not upset with any particular Raven, I'm just looking forward to next year to see the good changes and new players that come to fruition. Hashtag Vault. Pretty level-headed take there, Matt.
Sure.
Tierra.
Ready to get this offseason rolling. Hashtag Flog Nation. Hashtag Vault.
I'm ready to get down to New Orleans for Super Bowl coverage, and I'm ready to potentially make my debut at the NFL Combine. All that and more is what's coming up. I haven't worked much the last 48 hours, but I do plan on getting a lot done this offseason with you, partner. I look forward to it. Justin Holt says, only team in the North without a game record. Why? Hashtag Vault. Steven Dents.
The job that you both do every day, Sarah and Bobby, does not go unnoticed. Get well soon, Bobby. Here every day and not taking a break. Raven for life. Hashtag Vault. Appreciate
you, Steven. Yeah, thanks, man. Buffalo ruined me. Noah says, Ravens will be back. Love you guys. Hashtag Vault. Rink.
We just need to take care of the ball. It's so true. Hashtag Vault.
That and get a few takeaways now and again in January. How about that? To help out when those inevitable turnovers come up. Hopefully they're not inevitable moving forward, but they certainly have been throughout Lamar's 8 games in the postseason. Jackie writes, bottom line, Ravens underachieved this year.
Mm-hmm.
If the team keeps making the same mistakes every year, that's on the coaches /GM. Ugh. Hashtag not over it. Hashtag Vault. And Zemba.
Honestly, my second favorite time of the year. Draft time is like Christmas time. Time heals all. Blocks.
Thanks, Zemba. Brian Harmon writes, Bobby feels like death. Sarah's drooling everywhere. What a show. You guys are awesome at what you do. Hey, what you do for us fans. I never miss a show, and I hope you know how much we appreciate your hard work and dedication. Hashtag Vault. Brian, I love the way you put that at the top. You know, we really are a duo that is that there are no words to describe the duo that Sarah and I are today on this Wednesday Homage giveaway day, January 22nd. What's Paul got for you?
Oh, no. Let me read this. So true. I don't even want to give it oxygen. Paul is, I can't even tell you how much the show, it gets brought up to me all the time. Seeing all these Secret Lives of Mormon Wives ads. Is there another season coming, Paul? Is that why they're doing advertisements? Anyway, he goes, I imagine Sarah saying, no secrets here. I love God, my family, the Ravens, and the Vault.
Devil Dog 0352 says $1.99 gang, hashtag Vault. Thank you, Devil. And Diana.
Does the Vault stop now? Diana, come on now. We're not stopping. No, the Vault does not stop. She says, thanks for getting us through this loss. You're welcome.
I'll just add on to that. I believe Diana, I owe her an Instagram message if she's the same Diana that wrote me this morning about that exact question, because I think a lot of people are new. We gained such a big audience this season, particularly down the stretch, that folks may not be aware. We are a year-round 12-to-1 show. We have not been live for a year. We went live daily prior to pre-taping and whatnot in March. So March will come up on a year of daily live content. But Diana, what you can expect moving forward into the off season, 12 as usual, Monday through Friday, 12-to-1 live all year round. Thank you, Diana. Quion says this is the second year in a row the defense has shut out the offense in the second half, and yet the offense couldn't get out of their own way. Hashtag Vault. And JL Green.
Sarah, I can relate. Check out movie Marathon Man. Okay.
Hey, I'll just say this. If you're looking at your percentages of potentially being a winner today, just 26 hashtag Vault comments right now. So it is open for the taking. If you guys want to be eligible for today's Homage gear giveaway, which includes a site-wide distribution, not aside from the starter and varsity jackets, then enter in by clicking on that link that we have included in the pinned comment and following the instructions that we have in that pinned comment.
It's actually only 23 entries because not everybody put in a hashtag.
Thank you.
Yep.
On to the offensive line evaluations and the future of that line. And for that, we'll go to Eric DaCosta, who had this to say specifically.
Always have the best line that we can have, offensive line. We made a tough call last year to to go younger and bring in and have some younger guys play, and we knew we'd have a few growing pains. I think we had a few, but looking back on it, I think it was absolutely the right thing to do, and we saw our guys improve and get better and really mesh as a unit and gel.
I just got to pause it right there because that was his second flex that we've listened to so far. Like his first flex was, you thought Derrick Henry wouldn't fit here. He was over the hill, chew on that. And now he's saying we absolutely made the right decisions to go younger and is really happy. I'm sure they feel great about Fa'alele, even though he's still not like, he's no Marshall Yonda. But he was asked about the left side with Ronnie Stanley and McCary both being free agents. So before he answers about the left side, he wanted to flex on his offensive line decisions from last year. So, I mean, do it where you can. Go for it.
We are aware that we have some, guys that contracts are up. We'll look at that and certainly have some discussions with players. And we'll look at potentially bringing back our guys. We'll look at the draft. We'll look at free agency. We'll overturn every rock to find as many good offensive linemen as we can. And I think we have some good young players on the team. They've shown that. And one thing that we've seen over the years with that position is guys get better as they get older and more established and get in the weight room and get stronger and play better. So that's going to be the case with the guys we have. We're blessed to have really good coaches and some good young players. But also we realize that we're probably going to have conservatively 10 or 11 draft picks this year, free agency, and still the chance to get some deals signed with some of those guys.
That was one of those kind of in between, like all those other ones. It's like, yeah, they're going to bring back Pat Ricard and Justin Tucker and maybe extend Derrick Henry, all that kind of stuff. Gene Pease is coming back. And then they're like, no, Brennan Stevens is not coming back. This is one of those where I think it's kind of what we had predicted, which is that, give Ronnie Stanley an offer. And if he feels like he wants to test free agency and beat it, then he can do that. But I think that there's going to be an offer on the table for him. McCary, not as clear to me. Maybe they feel like Voorhees has a future at left guard, even though he didn't, this last year. Give him a year without that injury of just getting bigger and stronger and just learning the NFL. So I don't think I doubt they would bring both of them back. But he sounds like he's getting ready for anything and everything. Like, yeah, we would like to get our own guys. If not, we're going to look at the draft. We're going to look at free agency. So I think that's the one that's up in the air. Ronnie Stanley especially.
How about the right-hand side of the line, evaluating rookie right tackle Roger Rosengarten?
He's played both sides of that. He's played left and right. I mean, this year it's a very hard thing to come in as an offensive lineman as a rookie and play well. And Roger, honestly, just got better and better and better and better, mature guy beyond his years. I think a year in the weight room is going to really serve him well, as it will all of our guys. But I think that we were I can speak for myself and say I was very happy with what Roger did. It's a very tough position to play as a young player. I think his future is very bright, as are the guys that he played with on the offensive line this year. And we're excited to see what he looks like next year.
He was good. I agree with him on that. And I don't think it's lost on him or anybody else that, as he mentioned, that he can play both the left and right hand side. So if Ronnie walks, my prediction is he'd become the left tackle and they would draft another right tackle or maybe sign a veteran. So just solid pick for a second rounder and he may be able to progress from a solid pick to a great pick because his future is bright.
And perhaps lost in the shuffle of a busy year was the fact that when Joe D tragically passed away, the Ravens, you can't blink. I mean, you just can't. Of course, you can celebrate and cherish the time that you had with Joe D, who was just an amazing human being, more so than anything else, not to mention a heck of an offensive line coach. But the NFL stops for nothing or no one, and so they had to turn a page quickly to George Warhop, and John Harbaugh was sure to give Baltimore's interim offensive line coach a whole lot of love for what he did in the midst of some really trying times at the beginning of this year.
We're just known as one of the best offensive line coaches in the league, and everybody respects him. And for him to be available, I've told you this before, I've known him since we were 25 years old when he was working for Mike Gottfried at the University of Kansas, and we spent a week together talking football, and Mike came to want to spend a week with us this week during the season and spent time here. So, those are the connections that you make, and he was a great coach then, and he's a great coach now. How many guys could have come in that circumstance? I mean, Joe D is loved, respected, did an amazing job here. We have a Joe D Award. We have a room named after him. We love him, and for a coach to be good enough to adapt to the things that the offense, the way it was built, the calls, the way they were made, the way the techniques were taught, and still put his imprint on it, because you got to coach it the way you believe in it being coached, and do it in a seamless way where the guys, it makes sense to the guys. You got to be really good to do that. And to me, that's George Warhop, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for it, to your point.
Probably wasn't talked about enough this year, just in the midst of everything else that was going on. But big ups, salute to George Warhop, who maybe will be in line to be a permanent staff member at some point this offseason.
And it's also cool that I didn't know that they had a room and an award named after Joe G. Like, that would be pretty cool to get, if you're an offensive lineman, you've had a great year. I'm curious who got the first, like, how often do they give the Joe D Award? Is this like a game ball type thing where they give one out weekly? Is it once at the end of the year? And who got the first one? So that's really cool that they're honoring him in that way.
Shall we shift gears to the defensive side of the ball and rip through some evaluations and futures and whatnot?
Yep.
Begin with the second-year player who was a first-year starter. At least he was for a chunk of time in the beginning of the year. That is linebacker Trenton Simpson. They drafted him out of Clemson a couple years ago, and as we all kind of watched unfold down the second half stretch, he slowly but surely started to lose his job to the Chris Boards and the Malik Harrisons in the middle part of that defense alongside Roquan, which maybe no coincidence that Rowe really started playing like all pro Rowe once that decision was made. Here is Eric talking about Trenton's overall evaluation this year and future moving forward. And keep in mind, keep your ear tight here to how he refers to a second-year player who is going in to year 3. I found this to be interesting.
I think he's an exciting young prospect. I think he's a really, really good young player, developmental guy. And I think he's, obviously, like a lot of our young players, they have their ups and downs and their growing pains. But I think his future is very bright. We've seen guys like him, have their moments and then end up being really, really good players. And I would expect that. This guy's young, very athletic. He can run. He's very explosive. He has a huge care factor. And it's our job to get that out of him, and I think we will.
Developmental player is what stood out to me, Sarah. And hey, it's his first full year as a starter, and I shouldn't even say a full year because he wasn't a starter for a full season. But after playing primarily special teams, aside from the regular season finale where he started and played the whole game, if I'm not mistaken. In week 18 last year, after they had already wrapped up the bye and it was against Pittsburgh. I mean, this year was essentially, he was a newly minted player in the middle part of that defense, playing a significant role alongside Roquan. And perhaps the moment was, I don't know how to say the moment was too big for him, but perhaps it was a bit too early, a bit too premature to expect that kind of role to be embraced by him.
I feel like this year is like another lesson in why raw talent alone isn't predictive of what's going to happen. Because in training camp, I remember feeling uber confident in Trenton Simpson next to Roquan Smith. Like, I just felt like, okay, yeah, he won't be Patrick Queen in his first full year of starting, because I was like, Patrick Queen, had to go through a learning curve too. But I thought next to Roquan, like, he'll have his growing pains, but he'll get there by the end of the year. Meanwhile, I thought Fa'alele just can't do this, right? And it ended up being that Fa'alele was on the trajectory that I thought Trenton Simpson would be on, which is that he started out really bad, had some really bad growing pains, but then eventually stabilized it to the point where he gets, second team Pro Bowl alternate and a vote for an All Pro. And it's just like, holy cow. And then meanwhile, Trenton Simpson ended up having to be benched. And so that's what's tough about this business and being a scout or a coach or this and that. It's like one thing to have the talent, but it's another thing for it to all click. And so obviously for Trenton Simpson, I'm happy to hear that they haven't given up on him, because he does have this raw talent. He called it the care factor. Like, his passion is definitely off the chart. If you've ever listened to him, he wants it so bad. And so hopefully another year of development will bring that out of him. And I like that Eric DeCosta is saying it's our job to get it out of him, because all the talent in the world is right there within him.
What about the rookie Nate Wiggins, who, of course, just finished up a stellar year one, did not allow a touchdown in coverage throughout this season? And speaking of workload being added to a guy's plate, that's exactly what it was for number 2 throughout the year. Here is Eric DeCosta evaluating first season from his former first-round draft pick.
I knew Nate was a great athlete and a great cover guy. He's young. I mean, when you look at him, I mean, I've got 2 sons, and, you know, I'm getting older, but I look at him, and he just seems young to me. He's a tremendous athlete. He's got a very bright future. We want to get him stronger. You know, I mean, you've all seen his body. I think an off season is going to really serve him well. Had some nagging injuries and things that he fought through, handled some adversity, I think, pretty well. You know, he had the unfortunate car accident early in the year, which probably derailed him for a few weeks. But he's got a very, very bright future, because he can do some things that other guys can't do. And I think, you know, eventually, like, how far he develops is really going to be up to him. His future is unlimited, because he can do some things that just are very unusual and unique at his position. And I can't wait to see what a good offseason does for him. Everything is fast forward, full speed ahead with him. I mean, he had a good year. He can be great next year, but it's going to be up to him.
Sarah, I think that summarizes everything you're going to hear about Nate throughout this upcoming offseason and beyond. I'll remind you that when I asked Chris McAllister prior to the wild card game, former Super Bowl winning Ravens corner, what Nate's ceiling is, he took about a half second, if that, to look at me in the eye and said, there is none. Like, there is no ceiling for Nate Wiggins. And I think you can kind of hear similar sentiments there being echoed by Eric's evaluation. And he did not miss on his first rounder. And now I think you just move forward and try to get that body to be more of an NFL physique and get yourself more durable. And man, the sky's the limit for this guy.
Yeah, I mean, he literally said his future is unlimited, because he can do some things that are very unusual and unique at the position. I was like, dang, now I just want to sit down and watch film with Eric and have him point out, like, details. I mean, to me, he looks sensational, but I'm sure Eric is seeing the details that probably go over my head, you know? And he just always seemed to be in the right position. His speed is unreal. His closing speed, especially when the ball's in the air, is unreal. And Bobby, I pulled in a slide yesterday when I know you were out. Jonas Schaefer talked to him about his weight, and he put on a good 14-ish pounds from college in this first year. And so I don't know what would be the ideal for his frame. But, you know, that's a good 14 pounds. But the goal is just to continue to get stronger, hopefully without sacrificing any speed. But, when he said his future is unlimited and it's all up to him for how far he goes. So, you know, I hope he goes. I just need a guy who can be on an island. I need a guy that can get some interceptions. I need a guy that shuts down half of the field and says, nope, I'm going to give you the opposite of the Brandon Stevens treatment, which is I'm going to avoid you, you know? So, just you don't want to say a home run of a pick yet, because it's just a rookie year. But easily a double. If he makes a Pro Bowl triple, and maybe it can be a home run down the road.
Well, what's been far from a home run is the Marcus Williams experiment. And maybe it wasn't an experiment to start, being that he did start his year after getting that 5-year, $70 million contract extension during the 2022 offseason. I believe it was the 2022 offseason, if I'm not mistaken, playing some good football for the Ravens. But then, of course, this year comes. He was banged up throughout parts of last year with a shoulder injury, only played in 9 games this year when you look back at it, and was a healthy scratch for a good chunk of the second half, if not the entire second half of the season. John Harbaugh was asked about Marcus in general.
Yeah, it was a tough season for Marcus, but I admire the way he handled it. Faced a lot of adversity that just kind of came with the production, at the end, and also, the way the performance, and never pin it on any one thing. There's no way to pin it on any one thing, Vinny. You know that. You got to kind of look at it as a whole, and there's a lot of factors in there. But I know this. I was impressed by the way Marcus handled himself through all of that, because sometimes the tougher thing is how you respond to the disappointment and the adversity that he faced as a result of maybe not playing as well. And he did a good job with that. He was a team guy through and through. He added to his positive right to the end. He supported his teammates. That's kind of the measuring stick for me as a man of how he handled it. And I'll be forever proud of him and grateful for that.
And it's interesting, Bobby, I think before we comment on that, I think it's interesting to hear that and then play that next to Eddie Jackson, who the Ravens ended up cutting. Eric DeCosta was asked, what did Eddie do to get cut? And he said it wasn't necessarily what he did. It was more of a roster move, but he did go deeper into how unhappy Eddie was.
I would say that's probably more of a roster decision in terms of us needing a spot at that time. I think Eddie is a veteran player. And sometimes when you add veteran players, you've really, as a GM, you've got to look at the player and you've got to figure out, is this player going to be happy in his role? This is a guy I think Eddie was a 2-time Pro Bowl safety earlier in his career. And, it really comes down to, probably I failed because this was a guy that didn't really want to accept his role as a backup safety and a special teamer. And I understand that. I really do. It was a good value for us to get him the way we did. And I think sometimes if I'm guilty of mistakes, it's finding value, but not always considering how that player is going to handle the situation he's being forced into. And, Eddie just wasn't happy with his role. He wanted to play football. He got probably distracted at times, but I appreciate Eddie. He's a great player. He's been a great player in his career. He's played well against us in the past. I think he's got a lot of football left, and I wish him the best. I enjoyed being around him. It just didn't work out for him as well as he wanted it to, and it probably didn't work out as well for us as we wanted it to. But I think he can play football, and hopefully he has a good situation next year where he flourishes.
Yeah, see, this is interesting because every player, or at least the vast majority of players, have to go through what Eddie and Marcus went through, right? It's very rare to be like a Ray Lewis who gets to start from day one and start until your last game, and that last game is in the Super Bowl and you're raising the Lombardi Trophy. That's a storybook ending. But for the vast majority of players, they have to go through what Marcus Williams and Eddie Jackson went through. And so you have to decide how you're going to respond to that. And so both guys unhappy with their roles. In fact, it's probably even worse for Marcus Williams because he's still in his prime contract, right? It's not like he's this older veteran the way Eddie Jackson is. And so Eric DeCosta says, I understand where Eddie Jackson is coming from. So do I. And you understand if Marcus Williams was just as upset and let that be heard, you would understand it. But just because somebody understands it, which your response is going to help you in the long run. Okay. So for Eddie Jackson, he gets cut. And now other teams know, do I want to take a risk with him as a veteran who isn't as good as he used to be? And I'm just looking for a veteran guy who can play like a Kyle Van Noy role, right? Maybe even less than a Kyle Van Noy role, where you're a veteran and you give perspective to these guys, because that's kind of what I'm looking for. I can see on tape Eddie Jackson isn't what he used to be, but I could still use him on my team because he'd be a good backup and he could build up some of these young guys. But Eddie Jackson just showed that he doesn't want to be that guy. And so it's like, fine, I'll get a different version of Eddie. Whereas with Marcus Williams, it's like, okay, well, maybe there's still something there that we can work with. Maybe he hit a bad stretch. He was coming off those injuries. Maybe it's that the defense, he's just a pure free safety and he didn't want to play this he either didn't want to or wasn't capable of playing these like strong safety and playing other player positions, which is what the Ravens like to do. They like to move you around and disguise things. We don't do that on our defense. So Marcus Williams seemed like the way he handled himself. Yeah, we can work with that. And we need just a pure free safety. You know what I mean? And so again, when people are in tough situations, you can understand if they respond in a negative way, but just because people understand it doesn't mean that helps your future. And so my prediction would be that Marcus Williams will be able to find another job, whereas Eddie Jackson, if he does, it's going to be one of those late training camp things, and then you kind of see what happens from there.
And maybe it went under the radar that the Chargers did bring him in on their practice squad for the final few weeks for Eddie. So yeah, it's a practice squad. I don't believe he was ever elevated to the 53-man roster, but maybe that's where he ends up next year, and works his way based on availability and whatnot or injury. But I'm with you. I think Marcus has the much better chance to potentially sign not a lucrative deal. That was the 5-year $70 that he got in 2022 was probably his final big chunk that he's getting in this league, barring something unforeseen. But I would agree with you that he is absolutely the more likely of the two to have, a legitimate NFL future. And I just keep going back to what Jimmy Smith told me at one of the pregame tailgates earlier this season. I think it was in the regular season finale where, he's just like, look, I just saw too much of an unwillingness to tackle at times, or a want to, I think is what he called, so that's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. And I think when you look at what Ardarius Washington did, and not only the shot in the arm that he gave them this year, but how much the want to that he showcased, the desire, the hit stick ability, the toughness, the tenacity. I mean, they needed that. They so desperately needed that. I'd be curious to see what Ardarius Washington's future is in Baltimore.
Yeah, and it's well, he'll definitely be here next year. But it's interesting that you kind of think of safety. Again, there's not a whole lot of needs the Ravens are going to need this offseason. That's what's crazy with how many people are just still under contract. So to me right now, and I need to look at the whole roster, but to me right now, the left tackle / kind of left guard is your biggest need. Probably right now. I mean, if they re-sign Stanley, then that solves that. But right now it's left tackle. Then number 2 might be safety and free safety, because it worked with Kyle Hamilton and Ardarius Washington back there, but you still want to be able to use Kyle Hamilton in this kind of chess piece role where he can make splash plays. I'm thinking of the time where Deshaun Watson against the Cleveland Browns, he tips the ball, catches it to himself, and walks into the end zone, right? We couldn't see those as often because they needed to just stop the bleeding, right? And so to me, I would think another free safety, and Eric acknowledged it. He's like, listen, if we put up our board and free safety happens to be the best position that's available when we're picking, I think they're at number 27 this year. He's like, we'll take a free safety. So he acknowledged that will be something that they will be looking at, is that safety position.
It's funny, that 27, 28 area, that's typically where they've been in recent years, that's been their sweet spot at the end of the first round, which is tough. You never know what you're going to hit on, but they certainly look to have hit on Nate Wiggins, that's for sure. To kind of clean up these players that didn't necessarily work out, Deontay Johnson helps us get to the bottom of that topic.
Please, and here is the last time we're addressing him.
I was going to say only because
it won't be, because we're going to see if he happens to get. He's not gonna get the Ravens a comp pick, but he may be able to cancel out another free agent signing, if that makes sense. So in the end, he could help net a comp pick, but not necessarily be one all by himself. So I guess when that all goes down, we'll have to talk about him again. Sorry to interrupt. You can play that.
No. I mean, this kind of helped us put a bow on the topic of players that didn't necessarily work out. In this case, did not work out whatsoever. And Eric was upfront about that.
Yeah, I think, we looked at it as a chance for us to strengthen a position group, potentially, a guy we've played against a lot. I think we did our homework. We understood the risks and the rewards. Didn't look at it as cost prohibitive. It was a relatively inexpensive deal for us to make in many ways. We knew that it wasn't 100% going to be a slam dunk, and it didn't work out. So, we always try to mitigate our risk. One of the jobs of a general manager is to mitigate your risk and look at the downside and the upside and see how it works out. In that particular situation, I really didn't see a lot of downside. I think we understood what the downside might be, that the guy would be unhappy with his role potentially.
Nothing that hadn't already been said or speculated on by us, right? Like we knew that there was very little risk, potentially medium to high level reward, and they really didn't end up getting any kind of reward. And ultimately, there is no risk that came with it for reasons that we've already outlined.
Yeah, I think he just wanted people to know that his eyes were wide awake when he made this trade.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That this wasn't like I'm shocked that like Deontay Johnson, who, didn't seem happy in Pittsburgh and then obviously wasn't off to the best start in Carolina. And so he's saying, I went into this wide awake. Like I wasn't like shocked by what had happened. So I think he wanted to put that out there on the record. And then something else I forgot to mention, but it with the Eddie Jackson signing, and it relates to this one, is in that clip, he said, it falls on me to let these guys know that their role might not be as big as they want it to be. Mm-hmm. And so you got to be up front as a GM and be like, listen, just so you know, we're looking at you as like, you got to say it in a GM way or whatever. That's not disrespectful, but we're not seeing you as like one of our top 3 wide receivers. Like we want, but you could be that if there's an injury, And so I know you're unhappy in Carolina. I know you're just looking for a ticket out, but that ticket, just know that ticket means this is how we want to use you. And he should have done the same thing he's saying with Eddie Jackson. He says, I should have told Eddie Jackson, look, I've got Marcus Williams, I've got Kyle Hamilton, like they're our main guys. And so we're just kind of plugging you in here and there with that. Are you going to be okay with this? And so it sounds like, a learning moment for Eric DeCosta to maybe be more upfront with the players that he's signing.
We've reached the final call for today's Homage giveaway coming up in just a few short minutes. So go click that link that's included in the show notes as a pinned comment. Check out the instructions and make sure that if you'd like to be eligible for today, you follow those accordingly. Got a couple different notes here, one of which is about Zay Flowers, and then we'll have a Rashad Bateman sound from EDC as well. But Zay could have potentially been on track to have a shot playing against the Chiefs had they made it past Buffalo. So he had a shot to potentially be available for this upcoming weekend's AFC Championship game. And they don't believe anything surgery related is necessary for his knee, but potentially I don't know. It didn't seem like that there's anything imminent. No, there's nothing expected, but perhaps a cleanup surgery is something that in the coming weeks, as players kind of get with their, medical personnel and whatnot and finish up the year, maybe that happens, but it doesn't appear to be something that will linger into 2025 is the way that I understood that as. And
there was no guarantee that had the Ravens won, he was going to be ready for AFC Championship game, right? Like there was no, really. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, there was no guarantee, but they were optimistic about it.
Well, they always say they're optimistic, so I don't know.
So,
yeah.
Had a shot. He had a shot to be available for the AFC Championship game. Somebody who was available all year long for Lamar Jackson in what became a breakout season for him was Rashad Bateman.
Yeah, I'm very proud of Rashad Bateman. This guy's had some adversity with injuries along the way, that he's overcome some serious injuries and some bad luck. And, I think he's taken some criticism, and he came back this year with a vengeance and just kept stacking and stacking and stacking and fighting through some nagging stuff and playing and getting better every single week. And, it's a great story. And I think he's just getting started. I really do. And so he's a great person. He works hard. Again, another guy that really loves football and loves the game. And I think his future is very bright, and I can't wait to see what he looks like next year. And
Rashad Sarah finished with over 600 yards receiving. He had 9 total touchdowns, which is a career high. And when I say over 600, I shouldn't slight him like that. He had over 750 yards receiving, 756 to be exact, 9 total touchdowns, and a average of 16.8 per catch. So big play bait came to play, and they're going to need that from him moving forward.
One of these days, maybe in the next week or so, Bobby, we're going to have to like review some of the decisions that Eric DeCosta made last offseason. Obviously, we've talked about, or even during the season, the Deontay Johnson and Eddie Jackson are 2 that didn't do well. And then the Marcus Williams one was obviously a decision before that. But my goodness, how many great decisions did he make last offseason between Derrick Henry, extending Bateman for a super cheap deal when it comes to wide receiver, his first 2 draft picks.
I love the Justice one. The Justice Hill extension.
Justice Hill,
to me is as important as any of them.
Yeah, Justice Hill is another one. I mean, he just bet on his top 2 wide receivers, and I wanted more insurance the entire time. But he bet on them, and they came through for him. I mean, it just is like there were just so many key decisions, and with him being able to run back almost the entire team, if he's able to hit like that in the draft again, then it's just like only getting better, and then you have depth in case you don't have as healthy of a season as you've had this year. That to me is probably like the biggest like missed opportunity, because for you to be as healthy as they were this year, and 2019 they were healthy also. I mean, really healthy.
Yep.
And that's another thing that hurts about like going out so early when you were this healthy minus Zay. It's crazy. So, but we'll have to look more in depth. Maybe I'm missing some of his other decisions, but I'm like, my goodness, so many of them were panned out really, really well for him this year.
I can think of a couple more. Brian Spar noting that KVN's re-signing should be included in that,
and letting go of Clowney, which that all worked out. Oh, the fifth year option for Odafe Owe, and he ended up having double-digit sacks.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I mean, he and KVN, the duo, the double-digit sack duo that they became for them. So, earlier on we read a super chat that said something along the lines of, "Why are the Ravens the only AFC North team without a defensive game wrecker?" And that might be true, but they did have a double-digit sack getter, and
2 double-digit.
They did have a duo, a duo double-digit sack getter, and they were top 5 in sacks, if not top 3. I got to go look.
I think they finished number 2. 5. They finished number 2.
That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right. So,
but I'm all here for like a game wrecker. Like if you wanted to add, a TJ Watt, I don't know that you're getting that at number 27. And with all their stars already signed, they don't have a lot of money. They also don't need a lot of money, but they don't have a lot of money to make huge splashes.
One other note that I had as well that I know you and I discussed in recent weeks. John Harbaugh did acknowledge that they need to, quote, get settled at punt returner.
Yeah,
that's something that wreaked a little bit of havoc for their special teams down the stretch. They really kind of went back and forth between Steven Sims, Tylan Wallace, Keaton got some run there. Or no, was Keaton on kickoff?
He was kickoff.
Kickoff. Yeah. So nonetheless, they clearly need to figure out who that guy is. There's a lot of internal candidates, but nobody kind of stood up and made it clear that they were the go-to candidate this year. So that'll be something that I'm watching from a special teams perspective going into the offseason. With that, the final call is here as my voice starts to cave on us.
We're almost there, Bobby. Don't die on us now. We're almost there.
We're almost there. Let's read off these final super chats and give you guys a chance to enter into today's Homage randomly assigned giveaway winner. We want to say thank you to Homage for their continued support. This will be the final 2024-2025 giveaway through Homage. And maybe it's something that we revisit with them later on in the offseason or coming up next year. What I say, Junior, I'll let you kick this one off.
Y'all said you were going to revisit my idea of Harbs to front office role, a new head coach. I expect a long segment on this subject soon. LMAO, because we were saying we wanted to see how the season finished. I don't know if I need a long segment. I like what I was saying is that if we had another AFC Championship game where like the coaching was atrocious, and I know that there are those who have an agenda to get rid of Harbs that are going to disagree with me, but you had that agenda before the game. I do not put that game on the coaches. That's not to say they were perfect. But to me, if I were like to put the list down, the coaches are pretty lower down on the list. And given the way that they finished, I do not think that Harbs in Steve Bisciotti's eyes I don't think his seat is warm at all. And so if he's going to transition to the front office, I don't see it in 2025. And then we can revisit again in 26. But I think they are going to run it back. That has been the theme of the day.
Appreciate you. What I say, Junior. I'm sure maybe, just maybe, there'll be more on that coming up, especially if he's extended. Zemba hits us with a hashtag vault. James says, sad to see the Ravens knocked out, but at least the Redskins, meaning the Commanders, are still fighting. All my neighbors and friends are hyped this weekend. Can't wait for next season. Hashtag go Ravens. Hashtag vault. It's incredible what Jaden Daniels has in front of him and what they've done in a literal 1 year turnaround. I'm sure all of the Washington fan base is thinking to themselves, yeah, all like, it's no coincidence. You get rid of Dan Snyder, you bring in Josh Harris, you bring in Magic Johnson and their entire ownership group, and look what happens in literally under a calendar year. It's been awesome to watch. Congratulations to the Commanders and their fan base who have been literally dying for this moment. Eileen Nolan.
Bills and Washington in the Super Bowl. Hashtag vault. Can I just say this? And my dentist was a little surprised by this because we were talking football before he drilled into my mouth. I think I'm in the minority, and we're gonna have to bring up Marlon Humphrey's tweet tomorrow too, Bobby. I kind of want to see KC win it all again. And my reasoning for that is that right now it's Patrick Mahomes is the top quarterback. And then you got Lamar, Allen, and Burrow kind of here. And Jaden Daniels is trying to come up there. Maybe he's just under. I want Lamar to take Mahomes out. I don't want Allen to do it. I don't want Burrow to do it. I don't want Daniels to do it. I don't want Eagles quarterback
Jalen Hurts
to do it. Because if somebody else knocks off Mahomes, it's going to be Mahomes, this quarterback, and then the field. And I want that quarterback to be Lamar Jackson. So to me, it's like just let Patrick Mahomes go do it again. That's where I'm at.
The only issue I see with that is, and I hear where you're coming from, then Patrick almost becomes that much more unobtainable.
He's already got such a lead. He's got 3 Super Bowls, right?
But hey, you heard what Shannon had to say earlier this week, though. Shannon Sharp's of the belief that once you get one, he's going to start rattling them off. Who's to say?
Yeah, but I hear you. But I want it to be Lamar. I don't want it to be Allen. I don't want it to be any of the other guys. I want it to be Lamar. And so because whoever else wins the Super Bowl, whether it's Lamar or anybody else, they're still going to be a notch below. Because Patrick Mahomes is already in on that kind of Brady territory. Like, and he may even pass, I guess he could even surpass Brady, because if he gets 3 back-to-back, Brady never did that 3 times in a row.
Well, it's insane. If you look at
a lot of people are disagreeing and some are agreeing, but that's where I'm at.
If you look at the trajectory, he's already surpassed Tom in terms of what he's done through his first. I think he came in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. So that would make it his 8th season that he's finishing up. 3 Super Bowls. Unreal. But I don't know if I'm with you there, partner. I think Mahomes becomes that. And I hear you, though.
So who would you like to see win? Not who you think is going to win, but who would you like to see win the Super Bowl this year?
I wouldn't mind. I mean, I'm just thinking about it because you know me. I'm not. I mean,
you haven't been.
At this point, I want good games. I want good competitive spirit. I want good games for the championship weekend and then so on.
Sure.
You know, I'm not viewing
Let's
it from
say you get that. You get all the great competition, but who comes out on top of the great competition? Who do you want?
I'll go with Philly. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be cool for Saquon to do that in year 1 with Philly.
Okay. All right.
I'll go with Philly.
Okay.
But I also
I actually wouldn't
acknowledge
hate that. I wouldn't hate that. I actually wouldn't hate it if it was KC knocks off Allen, and then it's KC and the Eagles win it. I would be okay with that.
Well, think about it too. If you want to hang your hat on something, and maybe people aren't going to want to do this, then you could say all offseason, well, yeah, Ravens beat themselves that December 1st day, and that team ended up going to the Super Bowl. That's one way to look at it. But I think from the storyline standpoint, Saquon in year one with the Eagles after what the Giants did to him all those years, it's pretty special. That'd be pretty special for them. I also acknowledge what you're alluding to with all the storylines and narratives and coverage that would come with Josh dethroning Patrick before any other quarterback does.
Right.
That would be a significant challenge for the coverage angle of that second tier, the Joshes, the Lamars, the Joes, and that would probably automatically vault Josh into a tier because of that Super Bowl.
It would still put Josh.
Which is what you're getting at.
Pat is still number one on his own tier, but then Josh separates from the pack.
Yeah, despite having a regular season success track record that's lesser than Joe and Lamar. Mm-hmm. That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
So, Eileen, you inspired a topic. Joy Walker writes, the team can benefit from yoga class, #Vault. I feel like I need to go to Pilates tomorrow morning. I feel like I need to literally drag myself to Pilates tomorrow morning, put a mask on for the purpose of everybody's sanity in there. And
you do have yoga there.
And just sit in 108 degrees and not even participate in the yoga or Pilates class. Just sit there in 108 degrees and just sulk because that's how I'm feeling right now up in here.
Yeah.
Shelly, we appreciate you. Panali.
Appreciate you both and the amazing content you bring. Ravens fan in Arizona. So glad I found this show. Go Ravens. #Vaults. Glad
love
you
things
found
like
the show
that.
Too.
Absolutely love comments like that when we learn of out of market Ravens fans that have discovered us. Frank Brady says, Bobby and Sarah, your dedication to providing Ravens fans honest content truly helps to keep us on an even keel with the highest of highs and lowest of lows this season. Thank you. This loss was hard. #Vault. Thanks, Frank. Appreciate you, man. And Shelly throws us another one.
I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken. We this loss. I don't know, but she's heartbroken with the loss. It's the same story. Us being ourselves. When will we get over that hump? Broken heart emoji.
And Shelly making sure that she's got her #Vault as well.
Yeah.
Tiny Tim Gaming says, respectfully, Sarah, you are gorgeous. Bobby, get well. But what are the chances EDC moves some things around to get someone like Max or Miles, meaning Max Crosby or Myles Garrett? Marco Daza.
Let's go Ravens. We have Lamar and Derek. #Vault.
Another one from Tiny Tim. A guy like Sauce Gardner. #Vault. Oots.
Sure. Add us to Sauce Gardner. Why not? He says, still in the golden age of Ravens football. #Vault.
OG Pearls. This is for you. I definitely can't do it today.
Whoa, dummy. Been in tears all week. Oh, #Vault. #love. We got love for you too.
Hang in there, OG.
Yeah, hang in there. Am I the only one that hasn't shed a single tear?
76.
Bobby,
Yes.
Did you shed tears?
No, you and me both.
All right.
But of course it comes with, I thought you outlined it well, your outlook, earlier in the week, how you don't let it control you. But, I can also see the other side, of course. I know you can as well with the amount of, season ticket holders. They invest, their hard-earned money and I'm sure people had bets on the line. I'm sure people had bragging rights on the line, so on and so forth. And when you combine the heartbreak from last year, I'm sure it feels all too familiar. So we get it. 77 Figures says it's unfortunate Harb seems to be above Rep Roach and Epi or EPI or EP Moreno for you.
With the 27th pick, what should be the mindset going in? #Vault. Just to back up on the last one where he wants John Harbaugh held accountable. I just need somebody to put out a good I'm talking about for this season. I think there are some overall John Harbaugh critiques that are fair, including getting knocked out of the playoffs early. I just haven't seen, like, I mean, we've held him accountable when he had bad game management this season, for sure. We held him accountable in that AFC Championship loss, for sure. I need somebody to put together a sound, non-emotional argument of why John Harbaugh is more to blame for this season or that game, and I'm happy to address it. But I can't hold somebody accountable to something that I don't think he's accountable for, if that makes sense. So we did it in that AFC Championship game. We did it when there's bad game management. We've done it when we disagree with fourth down calls or stuff like that. But I need a sound, non-name calling, non-emotional argument so we can really, sink our teeth into it.
Bosef says, no tears, just disappointed. #Vault. And Nightmare agrees with you.
I agree, Sarah. If Lamar can't do it, then the Chiefs ×3.
Give me 1 second while you pull up the giveaway.
Yep. Is that the last one? Yeah. Okay. It's the last one. All right. So as Bobby is trying to regroup and get his life together, poor Bobby, I am going to bring up this giveaway because it is that time. Homage giveaway. We got to draw. Here's the giveaway tool. And the person that wins this can get order anything, any non-starter jacket, because those are sold out anyway. And I guess I didn't need to say it like that. When you left, I said, "Oh, I'll bring this up while Bobby gets his life together."
Oh yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, not to be nasty, but
no,
I
could feel what was coming.
I'm just of the belief that when you're congested like this, and mine's moving from sort of the chills and the fever and the weakness into like a full-fledged head cold and congestion and whatnot. And so, to be honest with you, when phlegm starts coming up,
I don't want you to be honest with us. We all know what you needed to do.
Anyway, there you go.
It's one of those times where, like, I don't need your honesty today, sir.
Yeah,
but
enough.
I got love for you.
Fair enough.
Once you said the word phlegm, I had to cut you off.
Let's pick a winner before I start saying things that are TMI.
All right, in 3, 2, 1.
Bobby Phlegm in the building.
Oh, here we go, Bobby.
Who's going to be today's winner, guys?
There we go.
Our final homage.
Oh, wasn't it just like the last one?
Epi wanted to know, and hopefully we're not totally botching your name there, Epi, E-P-I, Epi. But Epi Moreno with the 27th pick. What should be the mindset going in? Taking an early look at the draft. The Ravens are set to be the 27th overall selection in the opening round come April.
Did we answer this question, by the way?
I think you talked about it a little bit.
I mean, I'm here for more depth at tackle. I mean, if it's there. I could see a stud safety being there too. This is why the Ravens can always draft a safety, because safeties aren't valued as much as they used to, and the Ravens need a free safety. So, and they also might be at the point where it's like they like every year their best player available, but I've really seen that being true more than in years past, because they do have a lot of spots already filled.
Never too early to start looking at it. I look forward to diving into coverage in the coming months, but obviously we got a few things that come first, like Super Bowl, contracts, free agency, you name it. And as always, because this is our final giveaway with Homage, just want to remind Epi and everybody.
For the season, hopefully we re-up with them at some point.
Yeah, for the 2024-25 season, this puts a bow on it.
Yeah.
Epi, you know the drill, man. Pick out something of your choice at homage.com/Sarah and Bobby. And when you find something you like, email us at BaltimoreRavensVault@gmail.com with that specific link to whatever you choose, with your size, whatever size of whatever piece of merch that you're choosing, your shipping address, and anything else, partner?
I think that's it. And Epi's here. He's saying thank you.
Congrats, Epi. Appreciate it, man. We'll be hearing from you. BaltimoreRavensVault@gmail.com, and obviously it goes without saying, really the last 2 months we've been doing these homage giveaways, and I thought that we had a great experience working with Kevin and his team.
Yep.
And I commend you for pushing us to do this, partner. And I hope everybody enjoyed these, and hopefully it's not the last.
Absolutely. Agreed. Congrats, Epi.
So with that, over 2,500 concurrents still hanging with us on sort of this weird hour. It's right before 3:00. We want to continue to reiterate that this week has just been weird between me traveling back from Buffalo, me getting sick, an 11 a.m. press conference, Sarah having a dental appointment. I mean, it's just been insane. Your kids are home. So we appreciate everybody's patience. And just moving forward, know that we are live year round, 12 to 1. We will get back into that 60-minute range in the coming days.
I think I was like an hour and 20, Bobby, yesterday. I was close.
Oh, I know. I kept, because I was trying to post up here thinking to myself, I'll help her and surprise her and get the pullout done and the audio stuff. And I kept like refreshing StreamYard. And I was like, wow, it still shows that little red live thing. I'm like, what is she doing? So then I finally was like, I can't do it anymore. I'm going to bed. I'm sorry, partner.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's
anyway.
all good. I got it all up. I'm glad you didn't do it. I'm like, go to bed, and you need to do it again tonight. Are you gonna do it? Are you gonna do a personal?
No.
Okay, good.
No. And obviously that goes without saying. You guys have probably noticed since Saturday, I haven't had anything up on my personal channel, or since Sunday's pregame show, I haven't had anything up on my personal channel. This is hitting me hard, whatever it is. So as you probably have heard throughout this show. So thanks for bearing with me. We'll get back to the personal Bobby Baltimore content later in the week. I hope to be back tomorrow at 12 noon with you.
Yes, sir.
And for that, we want to say thank you to Homage one final time here to close out the 24-25 regular season. We'll be back with you at 12 noon Eastern on Thursday for a Ravens lunch hour live stream. And for Epi, our today's giveaway winner, we look forward to hearing from you. For Sarah Ellison and all of you, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off. We'll catch up with you tomorrow. Like the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily live content. And as always, thanks for spending some time with us here inside the vault. We'll talk soon.